saying that I know that I'm like 80 years too late. And it's a pretty random topic to be discussing since it's such an old book and movie, and it's not like there's really been any talk about it in the mainstream media or anything really, but I just kind of wanted to talk about it because I just finished reading it, and I'm like 75% through the movie. It's a really long movie, so I'm just taking my time to read it, slow and steady. Not read it, sorry, watch it. So, just want to say that, like, I'm not some, literary genius. I'm not really going to be sitting here analysing it and, all that type of stuff, but I kind of just want to talk about it, some of my thoughts about it, some of my criticisms, some of my, which characters I like and why, what I enjoyed about the book, what I didn't, all that type of stuff. It's going to be very opinionated. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. And let me know if you've also read the book. I'd like to know, because I think I had vaguely heard of it before I read it, but I had no idea of the plot, other than what is said on the internet. I had no idea. So I truly had no idea how it ended, or what. So, how I went, 80 years. Well, I haven't gone 80 years. How I've gone 21 years and not known, I think is crazy, but I guess he's really talking about it. I mean, especially in Australia, where, it's not like in school we learn about the American Civil War, or even read classical American books, if that makes sense. So yeah, we don't really, I guess that's why I wouldn't know about it. But anyways, I accidentally bumped into the desk. I apologize, but anyways, with all that being said, let's get into it. And I think one of the more important things I should, touch on, which will be a criticism of the book and the movie, but mostly the book, and, just something that I think is important to acknowledge when talking about Gone with the Wind is slavery. My criticism is, I feel like the author of the book, she, if not glorifies, she very much brushes over or glazes over slavery as a thing. She'll always be writing, Scarlett would never hit a slave, Scarlett never called the slave this word, or Scarlett never treated a slave badly. They were one of the family, it's I'm sure her character and her family, yeah, they were part of the family, right? But it's, when the author was sitting there writing this, I'm sure she knew that not all cases were like this, were like Scarlett's, and especially when you get to this specific chapter where it talks about the Yankees, the Northerners and the Confederates, Southerners, talking about kind of their attitudes towards black people, and the book almost tries to go oh, well, because the Southerners enslaved people, they were just around a lot of black people, and they're really comfortable with black people being their, their, what's the word? What is the word? Oh my god. Like their nanny, yeah. Like their nanny, like around their children. Praying with the family, but you know what I mean, right? So it's trying to sit there and go like, oh, the Southerners just spent so much time with these people, blah 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 blah, and the Northerners just didn't. They don't understand them. They this, they that. They're horrible. They're this. But I'm like, dude, you kept these people as slaves. Like, you owned them. That doesn't make you, just because you hung out with them, doesn't make you morally superior than the Northerners. Like, I won't talk too much on like that whole thing because I'm not a person of colour, so I can't say much. But like, I can't be too, what's the word? Like informative on it, since I don't know the experience. But I feel like you know what I mean? I can't really it's like they try to just go like, oh well, yeah, they kept them as slaves, but like they were nice to them. That's just not true, right? That's just not true. Like, I'm sure in some families maybe, but I've seen a lot of horror stories involving people who owned slaves doing absolutely disgusting and horrific things to their slaves, and it's like, the author kind of brushes over that, and almost tries to paint it out that this experience of Scarlett's family is the only Confederate slave owning experience. Like, they were all just so kind and so generous when you owned someone. Like, are they not really understanding that whole point that they owned someone? I don't know. And I just feel like it tries to justify, glamorize, and glaze over slavery as an institution, I don't know, it's just, and I know it's supposed to be set in, the Civil War period, but the narrator is, an omnipotent, past tense narrator, which would imply that they're writing it, in the future. And the narrator is not Scarlett. So then it's kind of like, well then what's your excuse for kind of putting this positive lens over slavery when, if you're writing in the future and you're not a Southerner, right? What's your excuse? It just, in my mind, it's like, well, it's deliberately written to try to justify or minimize that whole atrocity. And it tries to get you to pity the South and all that, and see them as these misunderstood people and all that, and it's you kept people as slaves and you fought a war to keep them. I don't know. I hope you get what I mean. It's just yeah, I feel like it just it's not sitting there going oh, slavery's great, but it tries to make excuses for it and tries to justify it, as I've said, and not too happy with that. But anyways, otherwise, I liked the book, and the reason why I say the movie doesn't do it as much is because I feel given everyone knows that the book always has more detail than the movie, and I feel with that extra detail, it discusses slavery more, and you see more clearly that the author is trying to justify it, or I won't say justify, I'll say minimize. Whereas the movie kind of, this isn't really much better, but it kind of like ignores the topic, and it just kind of there. It's kind of just barely touched upon that they're slaves in a way. When I say they're slaves in a way, it's barely touched upon in a way that they're slaves. That's a better way of wording it. So that's my big issue with it, really, because I feel like it minimizes some of the horrors of slavery, and in that sense it doesn't provide an authentic recreation of the Confederacy, or the Southern states. So that's all I really have to say about that. Otherwise, as I said, I did enjoy it. Even though, some of Scarlett's decisions are questionable, I do like her. She's a heavily flawed character, but, everyone's flawed. And given the situation she was in, it's understandable how she did some of the things that she did. When I say some of the things, I mean stealing her sister's, stealing her sister's bow, or, stealing, which was more marrying. Well, I don't think this one's under justifiable, but her marrying Charles Hamilton, I think is his name, at the start of the book, just because she was upset, just out of spite. I think she's very iconic, but she's also, a B word. But, she's also not, even though the whole book, she claims that she hates Melanie, and she, hates this, hates that, she dedicates a lot of her time and energy to providing for Melanie, and, caring for her when she had her baby in Atlanta, or when she was at Tara, convalescing. She was very, careful, very, generous, and I guess that's kind of the positive aspects of her generosity are kind of reversed because of her reasons for doing it, in that she was doing it because she promised Ashley that she'd do it, and she was doing it, to win over Ashley, and every time she had the chance, she'd run out back to Ashley and try to convince him to run away with her and abandon Melanie. So, not perfect, but she was quite, her actions, if you were looking at her actions from from Melanie's perspective, right, I understand why Melanie adored her. But, what was I gonna say? Yeah, I understand why Melanie adored her, essentially. But obviously, again, another thing, in the movie, you obviously don't hear too much of Scarlett's, inner monologue, whereas in the book, you do. So you know, how horrible she can be. But then it's nice to see, the whole book, especially the Atlanta part where she's married to Kennedy. It's nice to see, a female character subverting the gender roles of the time, in the sense that she ran a shop after Kennedy died, but before then, she purchased wood mills and made the stand to her husband that they would be in her name and not his. She ran them, she went around town talking to tradespeople and all that, selling wood, and I like that, character who's subverting the roles at the time, right? It's cool. I like it. But then she's also, not the nicest character at times, and sometimes you look at some of the things she does and some of the things she thinks, and you think, like, come on, like, use your brain, especially when you're getting to the point where it's like, oh, Scarlett feels like she could almost love Rat, or it feels like Scarlett loves Rat, or, and all the thoughts that she has about Ashley, about, them not understanding each other, his, like weakness, all that stuff. It's like right there in front of her, the answer to all her issues regarding like love and stuff, but she just kind of shoves it all down because she's so obsessed with this childhood fantasy that, she's like 26 years old and just won't let go of, and if you know the ending, that cost her her love, right? That's another thing, right? Red, and like, I'm gonna go back to like the racism and the slavery thing for a bit. Red kills a person, like a black person, because he was like uppity, and the Ku Klux Klan is discussed, in the book. I will give the author credit. The Ku Klux Klan is demonized a bit more than like slavery, but the author still kind of tries to make excuses for it, like, oh, these men just felt the need to do that because they were just pushed to the extreme by the Yankee government, and they did it because of this and that and this and that, and I'm like, you're killing innocent people. Like, yeah, maybe they were rude, but does that mean you kill them? No. Like would you do that if a white person was rude to you? Like, probably not. I don't know, I wasn't alive back then, but let's be honest, probably not. And again, it's like, as I said, it's more condemned than slavery, but it's more condemned only because Scarlett thinks it's stupid. But that's it. Like she thinks it'll just make things worse. That's the only way it's condemned. And like the narrator tries to go like, oh, but they had to do it. Not had to, but they did it because they were this and they were that. Like, no, like there's no excuse for just killing people. Like, let alone targeting people of a specific race. Like, it again, as I said, it just tries to justify like all the screwed up actions of the South before, during, and after the war. And it's just a bit gross, like, because at first I was like, yeah, whatever, right, that sounds really horrible, but like, I didn't really pick up too much on the justification of slavery, and like these southern whatever, right, until I got to that section around like the KKK, and I was reading it and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, stop with the bloody pity party. Like, that's what it was. It was like, oh, they can't vote for their Democrats, so they just have to go out and kill people. Oh, they, these like newly freed people, are rude to their women, so they have to go kill them. Like, no, like, no. Like, what the hell? Like, there was basically stuff to the extent of what I've just like recounted, and I just think like, what the hell? Like, I was kind of like wanting to get through that chapter pretty quickly because I'm like, okay, no, like, this is very clearly like Southern Confederacy propaganda type of stuff, and I don't want to really hear it because it's bullcrap. Sorry, the way I keep slagging off the book, you'd think that I don't like it, but I do. I did enjoy it. It's just like the issue with like what I'm discussing is a big issue. Like, it should be discussed, and and also I can't really say too much other than like, oh yeah, I enjoyed it. Whereas with this issue, I can criticize it and talk about it, like many different things. So yeah. So basically, yeah, it just tries to glorify the South. But then I did like how Red Butler, right at the start of the book, kind of slags them off and goes like, oh, all the South has is what's the word? What does he say? Cotton something and arrogance. Sorry, I'm a bit tired, so I'm trying not to yawn. But yeah, he's like, you've got cotton something and arrogance, and the North has, like industrialized, whereas the South is very agrarian, so they kind of had no bloody chance fighting the war. And even when you look at that, I just think like, God, that was so stupid. Like, killing all these people because, like, what? Like, killing Northerners, like people of the Union, but then also killing your own people in like warfare. For what? Because you didn't want to give up your slaves. Oh, state rights. Like, it's state rights to keep slaves, but it's like, and Rhett was right. Like, that's all they had, arrogance, because like all it would take is for them to just like look around and they would see that, like the North was so industrialized compared to them, and like they had that massive navy to do all the blockading and all this, and I just think like if you guys had thought about it for more than 5 minutes, and had not been blinded by your own arrogance and your own obsession with slavery, maybe you would have realised that you're kind of barking up the wrong tree, and the institution of slavery is just done for, especially when the bloody like rest of the Western world was done with it. So, and again, the irony of, America, like the land of the free, but we'll have slaves. Like, it's such an oxymoron. But anyways, so, I think I might end this video here. I feel like there's so much more I could say. Like, I always have this problem at the end of my videos, especially my rambling ones, well, only my rambling ones, where I feel like I have simultaneously said so much, but also nothing as well. Like, I feel like there's so much more I can say, but I also feel like I've been talking forever. So it's a bit of a paradox. But anyways, I will leave you all there to ponder the institution of slavery and the Confederacy and Gone with the Wind. So I hope that you all greatly enjoyed the video. I hope that if you didn't care about the topic, well then you were still relaxed and you still enjoyed the video, and if you do care about the topic, well then I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you don't want to share your thoughts, then I hope that you enjoyed the video as well. So very much.